claim that our eyes were just either slightly different from what they are. When we talk, we see things are not normal.
Welcome to Strange Familiars. Allison,
Yes.
this is take 3 of the intro.
This is going to be the best one, though. I have a feeling.
All right.
It's worth the wait,
Well, we didn't do a show last week.
which is rare. There's been entire years where you haven't missed a show.
We've had a house guest, someone we haven't seen in many, many years. It's a dear friend of ours. It's been a great time, but I wanted to take some time off to spend with him. I was able to get a Patron episode out last week for patrons, but the main episode just didn't come together. However, to make up for it, everyone's going to get 2 episodes this week. Partly because it's a really long interview, and partly because I'm not done editing the interview yet. So
You're going to release one on time and one a little
yeah,
bit later.
Yeah, I'll finish part 2 and then I'll drop it. But that'll be for everybody. Everybody will get both episodes. I'm going to be talking with Caleb, who had some stuff in a haunted house, and he may or may not have brought stuff home with them. But then we get into this conversation of creativity in the paranormal, which is really interesting. There tends to be sort of waves of topics and themes that seem to come up in Strange Familiars. Sometimes it's something I'm thinking about, like buried treasure theory is one of my recent ones. I like to, ask people if there's been, people digging in the ground or their mines or things like that around, or stories of buried treasure around these different things. Or the idea that, people might make ghosts, like that came up a lot around when we were doing the Witch Cloud. Like, there's these stories that were unprovable, essentially, and probably just urban legends, and yet they were influencing what people were reporting. So that was kind of a theme. This theme of creativity in the paranormal just seemed to come out of nowhere. You'll see it pop up in, I believe, in the next at least couple shows. It might be the next few shows where we talk about this. It's very interesting to me how these sort of themes kind of swell up and,
And are you talking about art, or are you talking about creating things?
Sort of the paranormal being attracted to people who are in the creative mode. We liken it to a state of meditation, in a sense, when you're deeply focused on something. And sometimes the paranormal seems to be attracted to that. It's very interesting, and it's not something I spent a ton of time with before, but like I said, it's this next, at least the next 2 episodes, and I think a little bit beyond that. This theme just seems to keep coming up. It's very interesting. So we're going to get into that a little bit. Caleb provided some audio, which is always fun, some recordings he made at the haunted house and some other places. And in part 2, we get into even more audio he recorded elsewhere. Before we get to Caleb, I'd like to thank our patrons. Thank you so much, patrons. We could not do Strange Familiars without your help. We would not do Strange Familiars without your help. If you like what we do and you'd like to get more content besides, you can go to patreon.com/strangefamiliars. All of our patrons get commercial-free versions of the weekly episodes, plus full extra episodes every month. This month, I went back to Pond Bank by myself, did a little solo hike. Things got kind of creepy in one place. The most interesting thing, and it didn't hit me too hard at the time, but it did kind of hit me a little bit harder when I was listening to the recording, is so I made blazes on the trees because I was by myself hiking. I was like,
Yeah, you didn't know where you're going?
Yeah, I was turning, so I needed to find my way back. And I'd made 2 blazes because I made 2 turns that were very important. As the second one was really important. If I didn't make the second turn, I wasn't going to get back, or so I thought. I'm looking for this second blaze on my way back, which would have been the first one I see on the way back. I don't see it anywhere, but what I did see was a whole bunch of other trees with the bark stripped off, which I didn't see on the way out. Now, I'm facing a different direction.
Yeah.
They could have been that way, but it was really weird. I never saw that second blaze, but yet I kept going and I saw the first blaze, which I shouldn't have done if I didn't make the correct turn. And I couldn't have made the correct turn without the blaze because The second blaze had literally an arrow on it. I'd made the blaze and made an arrow pointing me which way to go so I wouldn't forget.
Did you look behind the pickles? Because I know sometimes that messes you up. Like things can just disappear.
Yeah, this is not a refrigerator. I know I can't find anything in the refrigerator. I made it back. I was fine. I saw it. Suddenly I'm walking along. I'm like, I'm still looking for the second blaze, and I see the first blaze.
So you just missed it.
I missed it somehow, but I must have made the right turn. It was weird. But I'm glad I did. I might still be wandering around.
And where was this that you were wandering?
It's a place called Pond Bank in Michaud Forest.
Oh, you were out in Michaud.
So that was the patron episode for last month. I told patrons I was going to try to get 2 out, but again with the visitor, it just didn't happen. But I got them, the Pond Bank episode, and there will of course be another patron episode coming in June. Once again, to check out all the tiers of support and to help us out and to get those bonus episodes, it's patreon.com/strangefamiliars. There's also an option on Apple Podcasts. It's called Patron of the Strange there. If you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, you get the weekly episodes commercial free, plus the monthly bonus episodes as well. And thanks again to all of our patrons, no matter where you're signed up. It's a huge help. All right, let's go ahead and get to part 1 of this interview with Caleb. I'd like to welcome Caleb to Strange Familiars. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
Well, you contacted me a long time ago, and we were talking about having you on the show, and then this happened and that happened, and I got delayed, and, just the way my life goes with email and my irresponsible way of dealing with it. But you have a really interesting story, it seems like. There's a lot of stuff kind of woven together, and you gave me some audio clips as well. So let's get into the story, and then, I'll ask questions as we go.
All right, yeah. So I've always been interested in paranormal and ghosts and all that fun stuff. And for a while, like when I was in college and stuff, I would go legend tripping, but not really experience anything. And so in 2021 or 2020, I think it was during the pandemic, I had heard this extensive podcast series about the Sallie House, which is a famous haunted house in the Midwest in Kansas. So they basically was like, well, this sounds really interesting. It was a pretty intense story where these people were kind of given a tour of the house, just like over an hour. And they got this crazy howling EVP in the nursery of this house. And looking it up, it's kind of an infamous house. And I was just like, well, how far away is this place from me? And it was a 40-minute drive. And so I had contacted a friend of mine and told him, I was like, wow, there's this really famous place just right basically down the way from me, but I don't know anyone that would want to go there with me. And he was just like, I'll go with you. And so since it was COVID, we kind of like, let's keep an eye out on like how things are trending over the next year and kind of set a date. So June 5th of 2021, you can basically rent the house out. So it's run by the city of Atchison as a tourist destination. And you can, it's almost like a public Airbnb where you just pay money and you have the haunted house to yourself for 24 hours or how many days you want it.
Oh, that's cool.
It is really cool. Yeah. And so he drove down from Chicago and we went over there. And so I'm a visual artist and designer, and I just had I wanted to do something with this other than just stay at a haunted house and just try to have an experience. And so I was basically kind of planning on taking this experience and turning it into a body of work. And as part of my practice, one of the things I do is develop an extensive playlist to listen to. And I pretty much, anytime I work on a body of work, I'll listen to music adjacent to it. So over the year, I was kind of building this extensive playlist up. And one of the songs that I put on there was Cat Power's cover of Stay by Rihanna. It had come out that year, and it's kind of a nice song. And so to kind of mellow out the like moody, broody, dark playlist, I threw that on there. And so when we got to the house, we got there at like 4 p.m. We get out and pull our stuff out of the car and, kind of just walking up to the house, and it's really small. It's a really tiny house. It's like over 100 years old, and it's like in historic Atchison. So yeah, it's just very small, unassuming in a neighborhood. Like there's people all around. Like the neighbors were having a party next to us, and we're walking in. So you kind of have, I don't know, this feeling of amazement where you're like, whoa, this is like a real place. Open up the front door, and nobody's inside. Basically, they just have someone come in and set up the house, clean up the place for you, and then you have a special code for however long you're there. And so we pop open the door and kind of just walk inside, and since old is musty, and as kind of a fun little gag, I guess, the first thing you see when you walk in is this carriage, and there's this creepy baby doll sitting in it. And so I was kind of focused on that because I was just like, ugh, that's a great feeling. And my friend who went with me started kind of like filming and walking around the living room. They have like a TV with like DVD player and some movies and some stuff about the house. And there's like a stereo system. And the stereo system was just tuned to a radio, just a, I don't know, random top 40 radio or something like that. So the song's playing over this radio, and all of a sudden I'm starting to realize I understand the lyrics to it, but I don't recognize the song. And I'm just kind of sitting there kind of thinking about it, and I was just realizing, like, and then it just like struck me as like, oh my gosh, this is Rihanna's this is the song Stay that I put on the playlist, just the original version, not the cover.
Okay, so you've heard the cover but never the original.
I don't remember the original. So it was literally the lyrics that caught my attention. So it's just like, oh yeah, I know these lyrics. Why do I know these lyrics? And then it just hit me. And I was like, what the heck? Like, it was one of those things, like it was one of those things, I don't know, I never experienced something quite like that was so potent, where I had been listening to the song for, a lot, just a different version of it. And it's funny because I had my friend send me his video of him filming the radio and stuff when we walked in. And I mean, like I basically kind of felt like the song started the minute we pulled up. And I can honestly say that's probably the first time I ever sincerely like had a synchronous event. I didn't even really know the term at the time, but I was just like, this feels like an acknowledgement. Mm-hmm. And it startled me so much, I didn't even say anything to my friend. Like, I didn't want to talk about it. I was just kind of like, okay, well, let's just continue looking at the house and exploring it. And so, yeah, we had the house for the whole day and night. And it was the first time I ever done like an investigation of any sort. And I mean, this is like bare bones, where all we have is our cell phones. And we bought a little tripod at Target, and then just some food to hang out. So we didn't really know what to do. Like, we kind of talked out loud, and one of the things we decided to do was, in the podcast that we were listening to, they, left a recorder in the room. So we decided we would just like leave a phone running in the house and then just like go outside for a little bit. So we did that, and we would go back and go through like the audio recording, and you can kind of see like a little bit of it, like the sound wave, and try to like find anything weird. And so in the Sally house, there's like this legend of like this little girl who died in the house at like the turn of the century or something like that, who like haunts the house. And the house became famous in the 90s from a couple that lived there with their newborn. And they were, I can't remember the name of the show. It was Sightings, I think. Okay. Yeah, they kind of featured them a couple of times, and like everyone kind of experienced stuff in this house. And it went from like kind of innocuous to like wrappings and stuff like that, to things getting thrown, to where the father was getting lit on fire, and all this stuff. And a lot of it focused on the nursery. Like, that was kind of like the big thing. And we had seen videos where people had, they're sitting in a circle in the nursery, and they have balls in the middle of the circle, and they're asking the balls to move around. The balls start rolling. They do the flashlight thing where they're able to kind of control what flashlights turn on and off. And so we're kind of like focusing all of our energy on the nursery, and like nothing was really happening for most of like the first part of the evening. And I think it was getting kind of around, I don't know, the sun was setting, so it was getting close to like 9 o'clock. And we were going to do another like EVP thing. I don't know, this is the only thing we could think of to do. We're kind of just walking room to room. And so across from the nursery on the second floor is the master bedroom. And so I started walking to the master bedroom to kind of just peek inside, and I all of a sudden felt this pressure kind of in the middle of my chest, like in my solar plexus. And as I was walking to the entryway of the master bedroom, which isn't very far, probably like 7 or 8 feet, it literally felt like kind of that resistance when you push two magnets together. Mm-hmm. Like I just felt like something pushing me away as I got closer, and I got more and more unsettled. And then literally got this feeling that something was in the room, and it did not want me to come in the room. Like a very distinct, like it wasn't like angry, but it was also like not super cool with having company in there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And freaked me out so much, I called for my friend to come upstairs. It was just like, I've never felt this before. I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. And he was like, all right, this is where we need to leave the phone. And so I didn't even like step in the room. I just chucked my phone into the room on the bed and went downstairs and kind of had a little moment. And then after that, I just like throughout the evening, I would have this kind of crazy sensation like it's in the house, it's not in the house. And it was just the strangest thing I've ever experienced. And my friend was being kind of tight-lipped. He didn't really seem to be expressing the things I was feeling. So I didn't really drill him too much either, because this was just so new. And so, when we went into this investigation, I told him, it's like, we should really concentrate on like what we want to happen and what we don't want to happen, beforehand. And when we were talking about that when we were outside, and I was just like, well, what do you want to have to happen? And he was just like, well, I just don't want to be disturbed. Because the podcast we heard was pretty scary. And, some of the stories we had seen on YouTube and, just casual investigating were like pretty harrowing. And I was like, yeah, I kind of said, I don't want to be disturbed. And I want to have like I basically said, like, I kind of want to have a little something to take home with me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, just like a little piece of evidence, something, it doesn't matter if anyone else believes me. Like, I just want to have this.
Sure.
Yeah. So we kind of kept doing this pattern throughout the night. So it was getting kind of late to midnight, and we were going to do like kind of one last round. So I put my phone in the nursery and, said what we're going to do. And we went downstairs. The stairs to the Sally house, they're real steep, and the hand railing is very shaky. It's kind of scary to go up and down them. So I was sitting on the couch. My friend was rolling a cigarette, and we were just kind of talking back and forth about just kind of how weird things were. And I started hearing what sounded like the hand railing going up, like banging on the stairs. And I stopped the conversation. I was like, hey, do you hear that? It sounds like the railing's moving. And we stop, and he says, like, I don't hear anything. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So we kind of continue talking for a little bit, and we go out back and just hang out. And when we came back, that's when we looked at the phone, and we got that recording I sent you with the 4 knocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like the hallelujah moment. It was just like, oh my gosh, what is this?
We'll play the audio with the 4 knocks.
Yeah, and and the thing that like is when I was like really looking at it, or like working at cleaning it up and stuff like that, a couple of years ago for the show, I realized, and I hope that it came through in the recording, but basically, I know it's a little like high pitched and scraggly, but you can hear us talking downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hear my friends, like you can actually hear the railing knocking. And if you like with headphones, at least for me anyways, since I've listened to this thing, guys, like 1,000 times, I can hear footsteps coming up and then my friend saying, I don't hear anything. And then the boom, 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 boom. And we didn't hear it. We didn't react to it. Nothing.
So do you think that's the sound of the railing, or do you think that's the knocks or something else?
To me, it sounded like something walked upstairs with its hand on the railing, like basically, and then knocked on something in the room. With the copy that I sent you, there's actually like a little bit of a high pitched knock. Like I never heard it before, and I tried to not over edit these things. The stuff that I sent you, like I have messed with them left and right just for my own purposes.
Mm-hmm.
But like a lot of them are just literally just some denoising and then just playing with levels.
Yeah, the knocks are very apparent. It sounds like one heavy one and then 4 quick that follow it.
It's quiet on the recording, and like we're literally kind of just seeing it on a sound wave when we saw it on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, yes, that's it. So we kind of got, I got what I wanted. I was like, there's my souvenir. Perfect. Beautiful.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I got the thing I can take home.
So what's look, if you're going to get to it, it's fine, but you kind of skipped over the first one, the EVP recording.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. Sorry. I got caught in the story. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yeah. That I picked up much later when I started getting more into this kind of body of art I've been doing lately, or like over the past year. I kind of started re-examining all the audio recordings that I had from that Sally house. And one of them is so the audio recording is actually from when we went downstairs after I like felt the thing in the room.
Okay.
And it was one of those things where I kept hearing it when I would listen to it, but it was one of those things like, I just don't know if I could hear it. So basically what happened was we go downstairs, we're talking, and there's that party next door. And there's like people revving their cars and kind of driving up and down the street. The street's pretty busy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this car driving by, but I just kept feeling like I was hearing like more of a rumbly sound that wasn't doing the Doppler effect at the back end of it.
Yeah.
And so I use Adobe Audition when I'm doing audio editing because
Mm-hmm.
it has a setting on it that has like basically almost like a heat map where and I'm very amateurish at this, very like self-taught, kind of just started playing with this in grad school. So when it turns, it's from purple, like the colors go from purple to white being it's really loud, purple being like quiet to non-existent, and then you can kind of see what the frequency is, if I'm remembering my terminology right.
Mm-hmm.
And so being on a busy road and like kind of going through I probably have like 4 or 5 hours of this audio that I like sifted through over the last couple of years. You get familiar with like what the sound waves look like with whatever tool you're doing.
Sure.
And with and this, like there is these weird little, like I could see the specks and like different frequencies following this thing. And so I was able to isolate it, and I don't know, part of me is kind of like, it could just be part of a car, but also it sounds like to me, what picked up my ears also sounds like a deep growly voice saying something, but I have no clue.
Okay. Well, I'll play that here. Yeah, so that's in a very recent episode, I had the same thing where we had these sounds which we thought were cars, and then they didn't have the Doppler effect. And we're like, well, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to say with any of this stuff, and I say that about my own stuff too, but it's more about the amount of time you spent with this audio, that says something. It's like me, like editing interviews. I listen as I go. I don't do this, but I know the shape of ums, right? So I could go in probably and just clip out just by the shape of in the file, and clip out ums out of interviews just by looking at the shape of them. So you get to know both, the shape of the file in whatever program you're using, and also like, the sounds of things. So my gut with that stuff is I usually go back to like, you were there, what do you think?
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, is like, that kind of gives me more of a pause, is because that recording was when the phone was in the room that I was not supposed to be going in.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of just like, okay, I really kind of do feel like it is something, because you don't hear that sound ever again in any of our recordings. Like, there are cars coming and going. We can, I've got sounds of people walking by and kind of talking. There's a lot of looky-loos around the house. It was actually kind of obnoxious. Like people coming in, like tapping on the windows, and like you can see see them from through the blinds and stuff like that.
Oh, wait. What was this now?
Oh, so because it's in a neighborhood and it's a fairly famous house, like people were coming up to the house the entire night, just about.
Really?
Yeah.
And like, you're sure these are it's just normal people just messing around?
Oh yeah, no, we had a guy walk right into the house.
Oh wow. Wow.
Yeah, no, it is so funny, because we were about to do a recording session, and like my friend Zach, he was like, I think we have a guest, and we walk out into the living room, and there's just this dude in a baseball cap, like, oh hey, yeah, we just heard about this house and drove by and saw the door open, so we thought we'd see what's going on. We're just like, well, hey man, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got recordings of like high school kids walking by, and you can kind of hear them, like, because the house is super old. I'm also, credit to iPhones, like it's picking them up from outside, and they're like, you can hear them like laughing and then getting really quiet as they walk by the house, and yeah, and then like getting loud again as they walk by. So, it's a very busy street. Like it's a very active neighborhood.
Interesting.
And that's kind of like one of the other things where it's like, yeah, you hear this stuff like left and right, and then it's just like this weird like grumble, and it's like, okay, well that's new. Yeah. And you could definitely it felt sometimes a little like you're under assault, because so many people were coming and going to the house.
That's wild.
Just looking at it. Yeah.
So when you get the knocks, did you hear them like while you were at the place? Did you listen back while you were there?
Yeah, we listened back to it. So
you really did. So you're like, okay, I got my thing to take home. I got my
exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. Yeah. And so, of course, we're like, oh, maybe we can get more, that kind of like a little gambling addiction thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so we do a couple more sessions, but it's like getting to be like 2 or 3 in the morning at this point. And so we decided to go to bed. Hilariously, as we were going to sleep down on the first floor, because the second floor is where the majority of the activity is. But as we were like bedding down there, we could hear kids walking in circles around the house, because like the lights are on and stuff like that. We have all the blinds shut, but like clearly it looks weird that there's lights on in a haunted house. And so it's like, I was like, what's more weird, like taking the risk of sleeping upstairs with a ghost, or like having teenagers watch you sleep? Like,
right.
Yeah. So I was like, let's just go upstairs. And there's 3 rooms upstairs, and it's the nursery, like a second bedroom, and then the master bedroom. And I'm like, Zach's like, are we sleeping in the nursery? And I was like, no. It's like, no. And we looked at the other room, and one of the things they have you do is like, you can't sleep on the furniture. And so the other room's basically a big bed. And I was like, there's not enough room for us to kind of like stretch out. So I was like, let's sleep in the master bedroom. Not even thinking about the fact that like 4 or 5 hours earlier, I was freaking out about not being allowed in the master bedroom.
Right.
So we bunk down, go to bed. I wake up in the middle of the night because I'm hearing some shuffling, and my friend, he's sleeping on a cot. And so I'm like, Zach's just probably moving around the cot, squeaking. And I'm sleeping on the floor, kind of between the bed in the bedroom and the door to leave. And I look up and I'm hearing the shuffling sound, and Zach is not moving. And I'm realizing that the sound is moving in the bedroom. So I can't see all the bedroom because I'm like right up on almost underneath the bed. Mm-hmm. But it's like it sounded like something was pacing on the other side of the bedroom around us, like back and forth. And this was one of those things where it's like, I was kind of questioning if this was a dream or not, because I don't know, like I woke up when I realized that Zach wasn't moving and something else was, like, I had that like almost existential dread. Mm-hmm. Like, this isn't good. And like just stared straight for a second in my sleeping bag, like, do not roll over, do not let it know you're awake. Like the thing. And after listening to your show, this is kind of what made me think, like, no, this actually might have really happened, because I have heard so many of your guests talk about that feeling of like being horrified, and if you don't let it know that you're awake, you might get out of the night alive. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I could just hear this thing moving, and I was just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I fell asleep and woke up. The sun was up. It was a nice day. It was Sunday morning, and all's well. It was just, so that was like one of those things where I was just like, did that really happen? Because like, how do you fall asleep? You know, heard this 1,000 times. Yeah,
exactly. It's a thing. So yeah, why didn't you sleep in the bed?
Oh, I'm a rule follower at times. And there was explicit instructions that you can't sleep on the furniture.
Oh, like from the place you rented it from.
Yeah. Oh,
okay, that's understandable. Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, basically it's just, I'm pretty sure they just don't want to do more laundry than they have to.
Yeah.
And so, we were just fun. I didn't think about bringing a cot. I just had a jankety sleeping bag I've had since I was 16 with a broken zipper. So that was even more terrifying when I was hearing this thing moving around. Like, I couldn't even cuddle up in it. Mm-hmm. I just had my back exposed. And so, we pack up, go home. And one of the things we had heard is that you're supposed to, thank the entity. We kept referring to it as the intelligence when we were talking to it, trying to get, we were talking to respectfully, to kind of be like, we're here to, like, be with you. And, we've researched the experiences here. And one of the things that, people had talked about was like, you're supposed to ask it not to come home with you and to stay there. And we didn't think about it until we were like 5 blocks away. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, please stay there. Just like, well, right. Shoot.
Yeah.
And I didn't think anything of it. So that was in June. And then for like the last year following that, so that would be 2021 to 2022, like year and a half, just about, I would start to experience weird stuff in our house, which apparently is a thing that other people have said that, like, this thing comes home with you and stays with you for a little bit. But I don't know, it was just one of those things where like weird stuff would start happening, but it was so sporadic at first, you don't really think about it, but it would just be strange. Like a lot of times, so we have like a half finished basement where I live, and my art studio's in the unfinished part of it. And so a lot of times, like, my wife and kids will go to bed, and I'll stay up late working in my studio to kind of split up time. So I'm not, just a workaholic. And I'll go upstairs, turn off the lights, and then, go to bed. And I'm generally the first one awake for my job. So since our laundry room's downstairs, this is kind of the first weird thing that would happen was I would go downstairs in the morning and the lights would be on. But the thing that would always throw me is we don't use all the lights in our basement because some of them are kind of garish. And it was always the one light we never used would be turned on. And it would be enough to like catch, like when it should be pretty innocuous, but it just catches you. Like it just was, like that every time. And so, it kind of started with just lights turning on and off. Well, not off, just mainly on when everything should be off. And then probably one of the more startling things was with our group of friends, like we're basically like my circle of friends, we've been hanging out all together for 20 plus years. And so everyone's wives are friends, husbands are friends. And like we live in a cul-de-sac with a couple of our close friends. And so all the wives were getting together for a girls' night across the street. So I had my oldest son with me at the time. So I was watching him, and it was my wife had left and walked across the street. It was time to put him down. So I was putting him down in his room and like laying with him. He goes to bed way easier with my wife than me. So it's kind of a chore for me to get him down. So we're laying in bed, and I'm just kind of staring up in the darkness at my phone, like covered up because I don't want the light to like disturb him.
Right. Yeah.
And all of a sudden we hear the garage door open and shut, and then we hear some footsteps coming in. Like I shoot up and he shoots up, going like, "Mommy?" And I'm just like, well, that's weird. She was only gone for like an hour. And so I called her name and I didn't hear anything. And we heard the footsteps come up the hallway. And so I immediately kind of got my heckles about me because it's like, okay, someone's in the house. So I tell my son to stay in the bedroom. I open up the door and I go out, shouting my wife's name. I text her, "Hey, did you come home?" As I'm walking around because I don't see anyone in the house. Kind of go down to the basement. No one's there. And I text her, "Did you come home at all? Are you here?" And she wrote, "No, I've been across the street the entire time." And that was like the first time I've ever experienced something quite that explicit. Like, what was that? Especially hearing my son react to it too was even more startling.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, he bolted right out of bed thinking she was home. And like, so there was that. And then it happened to my wife when I was gone, where she heard somebody walking around in the house and she texted me, "Hey, did you come home for a second?" And I said, "No, I'm not home." And then she asked me I was across the street at the same house. So I ran over and looked around and nobody was there. And she was just like, "I swear I heard you come home." And it's like, no, I was across. I've been over there the entire time. And then probably the thing that everybody kind of experienced this was, that winter, it was like February, we had kind of a pretty big snowstorm. So since I have a design job, I can work remotely, and my wife's an educator, so she had a snow day. By this time, our second son was born, and so I get to sleep in and remote in to work later. So she gets up, or we all get up together, and she makes pancakes. And we're kind of having this nice, snow day breakfast together, all four of us in the kitchen. I do have 2 cats and a dog, and literally everything that's alive in the house is in the kitchen with us. We hear this crash in in my son's room, my oldest son's room, and I was like, "Oh, well, I'll go check out what that was." So, looking around, I was like, "Okay, I see Charlie, I see the cats Charlie and Scully, and I see our dog, like she's just sitting there begging for scraps." So I was like, "Well, what was that?" So I go into my son's room, and he has these kind of IKEA drawers where they're stair-stepped, and they kind of have like the movable rails, and they're just like plastic drawers you can pull in and out. And like he's got a lot of toys, and a lot of times we have problems with the shelves just falling down because they're too heavy for the shelf railing. So I was kind of thinking that's what happened. And I go into his room, and one of his one of the drawers or whatever full of toys like fell, but it didn't really like fall. It looked like it had been pushed out from the back. So it was pushed out and the front was down, and it spilled out all the toys. And we tried to keep his room fairly clean, but normally the drawers don't stick out because they would fall. So, and I know the drawers were pushed in. So it literally looked like there was like a little person behind the drawer in the wall, and they put their feet up and just pushed the drawer out. So it felt a little weird. Yeah, just, I don't know. I'd never seen anything quite like that, and I kind of got that weird feeling again,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't think anything of it. So then later, I'm in my studio, and at the time I had my computer tower on my desk, and then I had this like little table over that where I had like a printer and a scanner and SAD lights for the winter. And the SAD lights and the scanner have been sitting on that table for 2 or 3 years, never moved, like covered in dust. And so they're on the right side of my desk, which is like 3.5 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side of the desk is a cup of coffee I made, and I'm working on this design, and the SAD light falls across, so it's like elevated like maybe 2 or 3 feet, but it basically falls the distance of my desk and hits my cup on the other side, breaking it, shattering it, and sending coffee all over the wall, all over the floors. Like there's my studio's unfinished, since I like to tack stuff up and like paint on the walls. So I have like still the coffee stains from that spill like all over the wall. Broke my favorite mug. And that was kind of one of the moments where I was like, okay, man, what's going on?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
it was no longer scary. I was legitimately irritated by this breaking of my mug. And I know that was like it for the longest time. You know, months went by. Like, basically, I shouted, like, come on. That was my favorite mug. What are you doing? I didn't even care about the satellite. The satellite's busted. I've had it forever. I didn't even care. It was this really cool mug with a dinosaur painted on it. And, like, the handle of the mug was the neck of the dinosaur. My sister-in-law gave it to me. And it was derpy but fun. Yeah, so I kind of just, like, told it off. And it's like, stop it. Just stop it. Like, I don't care if you're here. Just stop breaking stuff. Mm-hmm. And so nothing, like, that kind of seemed to be the end of it. And fast forward probably like a year or so, this is kind of getting to like the original, this is where it all feeds into this story. I had been hearing about, of course, Hellier for a long time, but I never really watched it because I saw it was about cave goblins and was kind of like, at the time, like, okay, goblins, like, really?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's like, whatever, dude. So I listening to another podcast. It's a podcast about art and philosophy and like the occult and paranormal and weird. It's called Weird Studies. They had a kind of a rundown of Hellier, and I was like, well, I like what these guys have to say. Let's see what they talk about. And I like listened to the episode, kind of spoiled it for myself a little bit, but I was like, okay, I have to watch this now. Like, what's going on here? So I watched the first episode, and I got like my teeth like just hooked. I was like, okay, I watched the first episode. I have, if I watch one more episode, that gives me like 5 hours before I have to wake up for work. I can do this. So I am starting to watch the second episode of Hellier. And in the very beginning of the second episode, there is a little clip of Dana talking, and she's talking about synchronistic events. I rewatched it just so I could make sure I'm getting everything right, where she's talking about she doesn't believe that the events themselves are, she thinks that they're basically more like a superficial, like the events themselves are more of just an acknowledgement rather than like anything of a deeper meaning. Mm-hmm. And when she said that, the memory of walking into the Sally house, hearing that Rihanna song and having that feeling of like, acknowledgement, like, popped in my head, and that awful dread that I felt that night sleeping in that room immediately came over me. And I mean, like, by this point things had settled down. I wasn't really doing any like spooky paranormal investigation stuff. I don't have the money, and with 2 little kids it's kind of hard to just leave the wife and go do that.
Sure, yeah.
But I mean, like, this came, like, her saying that and then like having that memory of the event and being like, it's a superficial event of acknowledgement. Like, all of a sudden, like, my heart started racing. I started feeling that dread again. really bad, and it was really, really bad. I kind of felt like an anxiety attack coming on, and it was getting worse and worse. And we have our TV in the basement, so I'm down there in the dark by myself, and I'm like, I have to get out of here. I turned the TV off, went up, like tried to calmly go upstairs. My heart's pounding. I am like kind of starting to panic. Honestly, I'm like, oh my God, like I effed up. I effed up and it's here, and I effed up bad. Like that was like something I just kept running through my head. Like it just did not, like, I was like, I effed up. Like I did something wrong, and now it's here for me. And like the only thing I could think of was like, I have to get into bed. My kids were sleeping in bed with my wife at the time, so I jumped into bed. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be safe, and I'm laying in bed with my back to the wall. I just have that feeling that thing's behind me, and all of a sudden it was, not only did I F up, but I effed up, and now it's here for me and my family. And it was like the worst kind of F up. And I just didn't know what to do. Like I was just try to ignore it, but I don't know. Like, sorry, I'm getting a little like shaky talking about it now.
All right.
It seriously just kind of felt like I was like, I just killed my family. That's what it felt like.
Oof.
I didn't even care about me. It's like I just sentenced my family to like death, basically. And then that's when this thing like popped in my head. Like I don't know if I'm just laying in bed with my eyes closed, and like it was the only way I can describe it is like a thought or like an image that wasn't mine, kind of. Like you talk about like downloaded messages or something like that. I don't know, like being an imaginative person, like I will I play through things in my mind like a movie, like especially like working on like more like, narrative images and stuff like that. Like, you kind of start like working out how things look in your mind, your imagination, and like tweaking things like, oh, this kind of looks cool. Or, just, I was not in control of what I was seeing in like basically behind my eyes, like not in control at all. And so like one of the things I had done was like years ago, I was kind of working on this little like project that was like kind of creating like ghosts and creatures for Kansas City, basically, because I was kind of going through this like FOMO moment in my early 20s, and I was like, well, I like it here and this is special, so I'm gonna make it special. And so I just started making up these like kind of like gothic Midwest stories, and one of the characters and creatures I created had this idea for was basically like a giant werebird. This came from a drunk conversation about people turning into other animals than wolves, and it was such a novel idea to me. I kept like, it's just like something I stuck with and always like would draw iterations of this. It was basically, I mean, I'm big, I'll be honest, I'm a big dinosaur fan, so it was more or less like an ancient bird / dinosaur with breasts. And it had like ultimately like evolved over time, but it was one of those things, this bird basically popped in my head, and I kind of just, I don't know, it was like, this is mine in a sense. It was very strange. Like it was moving in a way. So basically it almost was like positioned. When it popped in my head, I saw it very clearly, and it was a little different than I normally render it, but it was like kind of in the pose of like a eagle on like a crest or like a coat of arms, where you have the like wings out and the feet are out and the head's like up and turned to, the left or the right in a profile. It was kind of like in that position, but it was flapping its wings, and it would open its mouth, but it wouldn't necessarily roar. But when it opened its mouth, light would shoot out of its mouth, its eyes, in between the feathers, and it was black. And every time it would flap its wings and open its mouth and the lights would shoot out, the feeling of just that horror just dissipated. I know I sent you the name. I don't know if I want to repeat it just in case, because names are important. But I got a name that is not something I would ever consider naming a fictional character that I invented. Very much not my kind of aesthetic and taste.
This is the two repeating words?
Yes, the
Okay.
two repeating words that I then like looked up later. Yeah. Got the spelling of it, everything. And so, yeah, this was just kind of like transmuted to me as this like thing was basically, you know, just floating in my mind, like shooting out light and like just calming me down. Like, it literally felt like I was being attacked, and then this thing flew in and stopped the attack from happening. And then like it is a little weird. The phrase "my thumbs are strong" then popped in my head, which was like, okay. I don't know what that means. like the rest of I didn't go to bed immediately. Like, I was still very much conscious during all this happening, and I just like, what was that? Like, just completely, yeah, I don't know. I'd never experienced anything like that before. And it's one of those things, actually, it's funny that I'm telling you in a podcast, but like, I literally only told 2 people about this in like the last year. And even I was talking to some of my friends about coming on the show, and they're like, what are you going to talk about? I was like, I don't want to talk about it right now. Like, it's like, we are sitting outside drinking beer, and it's nuts.
Well, my thought as, a fellow creative, and I'm not sure how I feel about that descriptor, but
I feel you.
We'll use that. Is that, you said you've been drawing this thing in different iterations and messing around with it for, a considerable amount of time. Mm-hmm. My feeling is that, like just on one level, it's like, of course, your creativity is going to save you.
Yeah.
It's just, that's the manifest form of your creativity in a very Jungian sense. You know what I mean? Like, so is it crazy? Of course. Yeah. It's nutty, but also makes a lot of sense to me as a person who would, pour that kind of energy into creation. So, that's just my thoughts as we're going along here. This was first that occurred to me.
Yeah. And like that's kind of the thing I was thinking too, but then like the autonomy of it, and then like the 2 words in that phrase, "my thumbs are strong," like, and that's like kind of the thing. I would like, it's like, did I make this? But then where did that come from? Because that
phrase just kind of came to you.
It literally came to me, yeah.
As all this is along with the vision and the light pouring out of its mouth and all that,
and the name, it's like, I got the name, and then I got the phrase, "my thumbs are strong," and like literally, like, looking at it, I mean, when I say it's kind of like a dinosaur, like basically it has arms, it has the primary like digit sticking out over the feathers, and then like a full plumage of feathers. So like, it has thumbs. It's got claws, and like the impression of very strong thumbs, like being able to carry and pull, like bats using that digit to climb.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that like also like kind of gets me a bit. It's like, like, where did that come out of me?
The Swamp Root Almanac. We've had these on before. I think we had an earlier one. They were called the Swamp Root Dream Book originally, I believe. This is a little bit later. But I love these sort of almanacs, but they often had horoscopes and predictions of the sort in them.
Crops, right? Like the when to plant crops. And
This one is from 1943, and it actually has air raid precautions in it. I guess people were rather worried about that in the middle of World War II. But it's got daily horoscopes. It's got some cool anatomical drawings, because this was published by a medical company, Dr. Kilmer's.
He sounds like an official doctor doesn't sound like quack medicine at all.
Well, he made the swamp root, which was pleasant to take, desirably carminative, mildly laxative. It aided in genitourinary tract stuff. It helped to flush the waste from the kidneys and bladder.
It sounds like it is a competitor of the Odd Peacock Sultan Company
Yes, but the Odd Peacock Salt and Company didn't publish the cool Swamp Root Dream Book.
No, they didn't.
There's some dream interpretation stuff in here.
Oh, let me see. Let's see. Pick a topic for dreams, as long as it's from A through C.
Fire. A through C?
Yeah.
Cows.
A through CE. Sorry. Oh, no. It's on the next page. Okay, cows aren't one of them. Try again.
Is fire one?
Fire. If burning brightly, it means good fortune. A dream promising plenty of money, good health, and happiness.
What about Bigfoot? Creatures, monsters. Do they have creatures or monsters in there? They probably wouldn't have Bigfoot, as the name wasn't in use in 1943.
Unless this is the first instance.
Wouldn't that be cool? We'd be keeping it if that was the case.
Yeah. Okay, monsters. Monster does not show up as a possibility.
No mythical creatures or anything like that.
Pumpkins.
Well, now, so what do pumpkins represent?
Plenty.
Well, may all of our listeners' dreams be filled with pumpkins.
I had a disgusting dream last night.
Well, let's finish with this, and then you can tell us you're disgusting.
No.
So these Swamp Root Almanac, like I said, it's one of these like sort of almanacs they publish, but I always like them because they include stuff like dream interpretation and horoscopes. I think they're really neat. I have a collection of them. So, they have a devil in here. No monsters, but they have a devil.
What's
An
the
omen
devil
of a
mean?
very successful journey, a fortunate future.
The devil?
Yeah.
It's almost like everything's a fortunate future.
Yeah, because if you dream of a funeral, you will have cause for much rejoicing, according to this. If you dream of the gallows, it's an augury of advancement and future honor. If the dreamer is about to make new ventures, it bodes good fortune and success. Yeah, I don't think there's a bad outcome.
Although owls, I think, had a bad outcome.
Oh, chains mean melancholy, depression, and tears. So I guess there are some horns signify danger. Yeah, so there are some.
It's equal.
Yeah, some less than ideal, I guess, topics to dream about. But yeah, I collect these little almanacs. I thought it'd be cool to offer some. We've offered them before too, but to offer one as our curiosity of the week. This is the Swamp Root Almanac from 1943. I like the little hole at the top with the string so you could hang it up.
How to make your car last longer. Rotate your tires and keep them inflated.
I mean, this is important information that still applies today. I'll put a picture of that up in the show notes. If you click on that, it'll take you to our Etsy shop where you can purchase the Swamp Root Almanac and other curiosities of the week, those that are left. The fortune-telling cards were a big hit, Alice.
Oh, good.
They're all gone. Yeah, they were really cool.
This has a recipe for if an incendiary bomb falls in your home.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah, it's supposed to take the hose and...
Yeah, place a steady stream from a garden hose on the bomb, and it'll burn itself out in about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Don't worry, just stand next to a bomb.
Stand next to the bomb with
a
your
hose.
1943 garden hose and water pressure that is essentially a little more than a trickle.
You would probably do just as well to stand on top of it and pee.
Maybe. Maybe. Also at Etsy, there are copies of my books. If you get them from us, they come signed. We have Strange Familiars t-shirts, stickers, mugs, patches, and more. Artwork, originals and prints. Allison has some old photos up there and some ephemera. And in the Flowered Past section, we've got the Petals and Thorns zine of Catholic ephemera. I think I have some rosaries up there. They've been selling really well. I got to make some more. I just got a restock of the antique nuns crucifixes from France. So I will be making a selection of rosaries using those. They look really cool. They're nice big black crucifixes. Don't know where these people got them. I don't know.
Oh, so the same place I got them from before that I told you about?
Yeah, but they come from France from the 1800s. There's
They just get like a pallet's worth of antiques and paper, and then they don't really know what's in it, I think, and then it just arrives and they get to go through it. It sounds kind of like a dream.
Yeah, it's just really cool.
Yeah, they always have good stuff.
I will be making rosaries with those coming up, so rosaries will be restocked soon. I might have, like I said, there might be 1 or 2 in there yet. Right now, to check out all of our offerings at Etsy, there's a link in the show notes. The shop name is Lost Grave, though. But if you just go over to Etsy and you type in Strange Familiars, our stuff should come up. If you type in Lost Grave, one word, it'll ask you, hey, did you mean the shop Lost Grave? That's us. So there's lots of different ways to get to our stuff there. There's always links in the show notes, as I said. It's always a big help. Anybody who supports us on Etsy helps the show as well. And Allison,
Yeah.
on June 15th,
Mm-hmm.
where are we going to be?
A graveyard.
We're going to be in a graveyard in Columbia, Pennsylvania. What are we going to be doing? Not just hanging out. I mean, we are going to be hanging out.
Yeah. They're having I don't, it would help if I looked up what they're actually calling it.
It's like an oddities market, I believe. So we will be there. I believe Octavian will be joining us. We'll have strange familiar stuff there. We'll have some skulls for sale as well. Other things that folks into oddities might be into. But I'll be there signing books, and we'll have the Strange Familiars t-shirt selection.
I mean, Columbia is pretty cool too. You really could make a day of it. I would suggest you hit the oddities market because that's over at like 2:00.
Yeah,
I
I
think
believe
over
it's
pretty
like
early.
10 a.m. to 2 p.m., so it's only a few hours.
Yeah, and then after that, you head over to the Watch and Clock Museum. That's what I would do if you're a horologist.
Oddities market, then the Watch and Clock.
Then the Watch and Clock.
Will you have time to go to the other antique shops then after?
You probably will. Then you should go to State Theater.
State Theater Vintage.
I might have a stand there.
Where Allison has a stand.
And then you walk like 4 doors one way up the street, and you get to Brian Keene's bookstore called Vortex.
Yeah, Vortex, who sells, you have my books at your stand.
Yeah.
I'll have my books in this. I will be triple represented in Columbia that day because I'll have my books in the cemetery. You have my books at your stand, and Brian Keene also sells my books at Vortex Comics and Books.
And then you walk down the other way, and there's Obscure Relics, which is like the hidden gem of Columbia.
Yeah, Obscure Relics, that might be my favorite.
It's cool. It's way cooler than my place.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, it really is.
But I mean, I can go. I know what you have.
Yeah.
There, it's always a surprise when I walk in. You never know what she's gonna.
She can take stuff that I would have no interest in and style it in a way where I'm like, I need that.
It's a cool little shop.
Yeah,
that's a really cool little shop.
And then there's Strange Days, and there's all kinds of other little vintage clothing.
There's vintage clothing stores. There's other antique markets,
bars.
like 4 other antique places there. Columbia's an awesome place. Is it Mount Bethel Cemetery we're going to be in?
I think so, yeah.
So it's Mount Bethel Cemetery where the Oddities Market is happening. That is, we've done a show from there before. Maybe 2. I think we did 2 shows from there before. That's the one they gave us access to at night, and John and Chad and I went. But I think we had done another show there as well. So it's a cool little cemetery. That's the cemetery that has the gravestone in it. The guy made his own gravestone after he got bit by a rabid dog.
And he knew he was going to die.
He knew he was going to die. And I think it doesn't have a little carved dog biting his hand or something.
Yeah, it's something related to.
Yeah.
It's a neat cemetery. It has some semi-famous people in it, and it's how kind of the people there to allow people to have a market there. I think does it benefit the...
Yeah, the people who are putting the market on, like all of our table fees and stuff, go to the cemetery. So it's, it's going to benefit the cemetery. So
that's nice.
Cool thing. Yeah. Yep. So that's June 15th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. if you want to see us in Columbia, Pennsylvania.
I'll try to put like a picture of the flyer up on like your social media, maybe.
Yeah, we'll throw it up on Instagram and stuff, and we'll remind people again because there's another show or 2 before then.
And this is the same town where the Alba Twitch Festival is. So
Exactly. Yeah.
if you've been there, you're already there.
Exactly. So yeah, please everyone come out. I'm looking forward to see everybody there. What else we got? Is that it?
I think so.
All right. So we will say goodbye, but we will be back very, very soon with another episode. Caleb's going to continue with his story, and we get way more into the creative paranormal thing. And he talks about some of these experiments he's done regarding that, directly involving like creating and trying to get EVPs and so forth while he's creating. There's audio that he has submitted as well. So that's all next episode. It'll be coming, if not tomorrow, very soon after. It'll, maybe the weekend, but I'll get it out as soon as I can. So we'll be back very, very soon with more Strange Familiars. Strange Familiars is a production of Dark Holler Arts. Intro and background music is by Stone Breath. If you want to hear more or purchase music, you can go to stonebreath.bandcamp.com. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Strange Familiars. There's a Strange Familiars group there called the Strange Familiars Gathering you can join. We're on Instagram @Strange Familiars, one word, no underscore. And you can always find us on the web at strangefamiliars.com.
send